there's just a different level to it. More importance, more drama to it. Skattebo like throwing up on the sidelines because he's just putting everything he possibly can into this. I know people sometimes will say like, why are people fans of college football when NFL football is clearly like the superior product because that's the best players from college go to play the NFL. There's not that level of connection. Like I'm significantly more connected to Oklahoma than I am to the Dallas Cowboys.
College football, like wow. I think having these bowl games in the playoffs is incredible. Like so much excitement, so much fun. Blaine, tell us how has it been for you? Obviously, being over there in the States, how has it been watching these college games?
I mean, I wish my team was involved. First off, it hasn't really been my year for my team, but it has been nice just to see the expanded because playoff games, in any sport, like playoff games or like cup games, I guess, or like finals, really, are just always there's just a different level to it. More importance, more drama to it. It just adds so much to it. So adding those on was a fantastic idea. I think. It looked a little rough at the beginning because some of those games at the those first few rounds were just complete blowouts, which isn't the most shocking thing ever. Because I feel like really with college football, there's usually only like 3 or 4 truly like great teams. Not saying that any of those other teams really like didn't deserve to be there, but I mean when you've got teams like Boise State in there, like I get that they deserved it based off the season they had, but like, do we really think that they're competing for a national title type of a deal? But again, I love that they added in those games. It's added so much to it. It's crazy too how the seeding works with Oregon and Ohio State facing off so early. I don't know that like that's the only part of it where I think they need to try to maybe work on it a little, how they break down the seeding because the fact that was Boise State 3 and then Arizona State was 4. And 1 and 2 lost first round, but I think they really do need to work on the seeding there a little bit to add a little bit more drama to it, just so that we can have a little bit bigger teams towards the end. But saying that, Arizona State went wire to wire with Texas, so they performed a lot better than I thought they would. That was an amazing game. Skattebo was incredible. Yeah, but it's just I've loved it. It's again, I wish my school was a little better so I could be involved in at least the conversation. Not with the 6-7 record. I don't know that that's going to happen, but. And Texas lost, so that added to it. So that was fantastic. That tied a little bow on it.
But from your opinion, what's been the best game?
I mean, well, if we're gonna say mine, it's the game that Texas lost. But honestly, though, I think it probably would be the Arizona State game, the Arizona State Texas, just the back and forth there, it going to overtime. Skattebo just going crazy. I mean, and like all the drama too with Skattebo like throwing up on the sidelines because he's just putting everything he possibly can into this. And then just going right back in and just fully dominated, shouldn't say dominating because the first half was pretty dominant by Texas, but in terms of the second half and then all like the trick play too, that was just incredible. And to just Ohio State, how dominant they've been. That Oregon game, I mean, Oregon being the number 1 team and then just completely blown out. That was crazy. I mean, I it wasn't the most shocking result to me because I mean Ohio State has always been one of the favorites for me. That was really between like them, Texas, and Georgia for me. Which Georgia shocking to me that they went out first round. Notre Dame has been.
Did you not have Oregon going deep with them being the number 1?
No. I would have if they weren't playing Ohio State. So the Oregon quarterback actually played at Oklahoma for 2 years before he was at Oregon. So I actually was pretty familiar with him, and I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's like transcendent. He's not going to like lead them to the title to me. Very good player. I mean, he's probably going to go to the NFL. I don't know that he's starter caliber, but he's pretty good, Dylan Gabriel. But I just didn't really think with the talent that Ohio State had on just their entire roster. I know Oregon's very talented too, but I assumed Ohio State was going to win that matchup. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout like that, to be clear there. But I didn't really have, based off the seeding. If Oregon had been able to play like a Boise State and Arizona State, maybe that would have changed things and they could have built some momentum there. But I still don't think they beat. Still don't think Oregon would have beaten Ohio State twice in a season because they already beat them once this year.
I'm trying to remember. So who did Oregon play before Ohio State? Because I watched that game whilst I was in LA, and it was very much back and forth. Was it Arizona team?
Well, that would have been was that the Big Ten championship game?
Big Ten.
Yeah. So that would have. I'm blanking on who they would have played in the championship game. It's great. Yeah, with all the movement in the conferences lately,
I remember watching that. So I watched that game, and watching that, it felt as if Oregon will struggle against a top side. Like that's what I saw. And even though again I think they went unbeaten this year. But like watching that immediately, I felt against a top side that had a great offense. Because again, their defense didn't seem special to me. Again, the offense they seemed
to beat Ohio State early in the year, right? So
yeah, I think it was a close game. I think it was like what 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't a close game.
Yeah.
Oh, you said wait, say that again. The second game was not.
No, I'm saying the second game wasn't
Yeah,
close.
the second game wasn't a close game. Yeah, second game wasn't. But again, of course, you got that freshman Smith, wide receiver, even though he didn't do much in this game. But again, absolute baller, and absolutely torched them. But it just seemed as if every time they got on, they just scored. Again, they couldn't do anything to stop the offense. But I wanted to ask you, Blaine. Again, for me, I watched that game in a sports bar whilst I was in LA, and again, it was cool to see it full of Oregon fans, and just kind of seeing them react. But for you, when you were at OU, did you go to any of the college games? What was that experience like? If you did, what's a game day at OU like? Can you break it down for us? Paint a picture.
Oh man. So I mean, the game days at OU. So like, when I was a student there, it's different too to kind of compare it. So like when I was a student there, we would have tailgating start 7 a.m. I was in a fraternity, so we would have. I mean, at one point it was me, but we'd have the pledges go over, set up the tailgating. They weirdly shut that down at OU for a long period of time, but they brought it back since. But I mean, we'd start drinking beers at like 8 a.m. Just to get prepped to walk in. They've started now a tradition since Venables has come in where they'll have the players kind of walk. A lot of schools will have they call it the Walk of Champions, where they'll have like the fan base line up and give the players a path into the stadium, walk through before, a few hours before the game, just to like kind of just build up. But I mean, we'll have tailgating all throughout the beginning of the day, just hanging out, grilling, drinking, just getting prepped for the day. So it's a party like the entire day, especially towns like Norman in Oklahoma, where there's not like the town is built around the school. It's not like at UT. It's in Austin. It's like a city on its own. There's a lot to. I mean, people always make fun of Norman that like it's a small town. Like there's nothing else outside of the university, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like when you're there, I guess. I mean, I get that you have to go up to Oklahoma City to do stuff, whereas in Austin it's a major city, so there's a lot more in there. But it's kind of all like you're in like a bubble almost, really, where everything revolves around the school. The whole town more or less shuts down on game day because everybody's going to the games or watching the games. But it's just a party all day. And then it's the one sport I think that's anything comparable to football, the overseas, like where it's such a community atmosphere to it. Again, like specifically with Norman, where like I said, the whole community is involved in it. The whole community revolves around the school. Like the economy of the town itself is going to revolve around game day too. So it's just you're growing up on it. There's so much more investment to it. I know people sometimes will say like, why are people fans of college football when NFL football is clearly like the superior product because that's the best players from college go to play the NFL. But there's not that level of connection. Like I am significantly more connected to Oklahoma than I am to the Dallas Cowboys. Part of that is because of Jerry Jones, and I'm sure we'll get to that maybe when we start talking NFL. But there's just so much more of a connection there. And like, I mean, I went to the school there too. I paid tuition there. Like I like feel like I contributed to the program too. I know that's I didn't really, but it's just like I can say that I have some level of like investment in it. So it's just such a community-based deal to it. And then just the stadium, there's more interaction with the fan base, chants, songs, things that we do in game day. Like anytime with OU specifically, anytime the opposing team will kick an extra point, we'll throw the ball out of the stadium. Just like little weird things like that don't make sense to anybody outside of the stadium. Like you wouldn't think that like that's just such a weird thing to do. But when you're there, it's just like that whole community feel to it. It's my favorite place to be. We've already taken my son to games. I'm planning on, we're going to go. I mean, it's about an hour and a half drive for us to get up there, but we're going to go. We go every chance we can. I haven't been to a playoff game, though, whenever OU was in the playoffs a few years ago. So I haven't seen one of those yet, but I mean, hopefully we get back and then I'll be able to go to one, because that would just add to it and make it even crazier. But
yeah, no, I was wondering then, obviously these games are unreal, but then this year they were playing like playoffs at, not any of their home stadiums. They were playing it at neutral territories, which I think kind of took away a little bit from the atmosphere of some of these games. Do you know why they chose to do that this year?
So actually, so they did do that, but actually, what was unique is so this year they did add at school games. So previously, all the bowl games are held at neutral sites. So this year, since they expanded the playoffs, those early games, that's when they started doing the playoff games in the actual school So you did have that like home games for like the higher seeds, which was kind of a benefit of being the higher seed. But really, but before that, it was always that neutral site. I believe the only kind of like caveat there is that like the higher seeds could sometimes select the bowl that they played in. So like if you had like an LSU, they would pick like a bowl game that was in Louisiana, so that they could have like a somewhat home game, or like Texas would probably pick a bowl in Texas, like they were this year. Like I think that was the Cotton Bowl. So they played in Texas, so they had kind of that home field advantage to a certain extent.
Let's finish off the football chat with
yes.
Who are your favorites to win it? Who do you want to win it? Share that with us, Blaine. And Afo, I guess you can chime in as well.
I mean, I think Ohio State is going to win. I don't think that's shocking, like a groundbreaking. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're the heavy favorites. I haven't looked at the most recent line, but I would imagine they're at least a touchdown favorite. Notre Dame surprised me though, so I wouldn't be shocked, I guess, if they were to pull that, because I don't honestly believe in Ohio State's quarterback that much. Their squad in general is just so talented. I've really been kind of surprised by the level of quarterback play this year, just across the board in the infantry. Like looking towards the draft this year, there's not really. I mean, you've got Shedeur Sanders, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be much in the league. But other than that, like, are there even any quarterbacks being talked about up high in the draft?
Cam Ward is the other one from Miami.
Cam Ward, yeah, not in the playoffs, anyways. Like in terms of like the quarterbacks in the playoffs, I've never really been a believer in Quinn Ewers. Will Howard lost his job at Kansas State. I'm kind of been shocked at the level of play. I mean, it's sick. I'm sure next year there's going to be some superstars that are going to emerge. Like there's so much talent across the nation, like it's going to happen. But it's been kind of strange to see just the level of quarterback play this year. Because Will Howard and Riley Leonard, both guys that have transferred. I mean, went to schools, transferred out. Because I believe Riley Leonard was in Kentucky, I want to say. But still, it's kind of shocking there. But I'll say I think Ohio State's going to win. I would have picked them if you'd asked me at the beginning of this past round. Really, at the beginning, I probably would have picked them just based off the talent they had. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I thought it originally Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas. Again, I probably would have gone with Ohio State, maybe Georgia, because I would you'll never hear me pick Texas to win anything. That sounds gross. So yeah, I'm going to think Ohio State. And who I want, I don't really have an affinity to either school. They're both big, historically great schools that have won championships. I guess Notre Dame hasn't won one in a while, so maybe I'd want them to win one. But really don't care. It really isn't going to bother me either way.
Fair enough, man. I have such a loose connection to Notre Dame. When I was at Loughborough University, I had the opportunity to go to Notre Dame for a year. And be a foreign exchange student, I guess, at their university, but I didn't take up that opportunity. One of the things I absolutely regret in my time at higher education was not doing that. So that's why I kind of root for Notre Dame whenever I get the opportunity to. So Afo, who do you have?
So it's funny you mentioned that, because for me, part of the reason why I got into American football was because of movies like I think Rudy's based on Notre Dame. A lot of the American football movies that came out that, one, made me obsessed about American sports, but also made me have that desire to school in America. So like similar to you, I wish I did a semester in the US. But in terms of who I think is going to win, I think we're all kind of in agreement. Ohio State is probably the one that's going to go ahead and win. I was looking at stats a couple of days ago in terms of the number of 5 stars each of the schools have. And Ohio State has a significantly higher number of 5 stars in comparison to the others. Again, it's not really a surprise that they have come out on top. Like typically in pro sports or a high level of sport, the best team or the team that has the best players typically comes out on top. So Ohio State, best players, you got Jeremiah Smith, again, like I said, absolute dog. Even though yesterday he only got like 1 catch for like 10 yards. It might not have been 10 yards.
It was nothing.
Yeah, so nothing. So again, the fact that he wasn't involved in the game, really, and still they were as dominant as they were, kind of just highlights how much of a threat that they are on offense. So I'm excited for the game. The last time I thought about Notre Dame was probably when the whole situation with T.O., the linebacker. Yeah, that was the last time again that I guess Notre Dame were relevant to me. So shout out to T.O. for that. And I'm kind of intrigued to watch that. Just looking forward to. I think Ohio State will take it. Jeremy, before we move along, one thing I wanted us to touch on as well, the Heisman. Of course, there's a lot of chat about who deserved to win the Heisman. So I guess, Blaine, as you being in the States, what did you think? Should it have gone to Travis Hunter? Are we overhyping the fact that he plays both sides? Or should it have gone to Jeanty, who's playing for Boise State in a lesser division, but putting up crazy numbers?
I mean, I think Hunter was the right choice, especially like the level he was playing at both positions. Like that really is very new. Like it's almost unheard of. I know it's happened before, but to this level in like recent years, it's not as common. I mean, I think like the interesting thing about it is that I don't think that I know Hunter won. I think he won the Blitnikoff too for like the best receiver in the nation. I don't necessarily think he was the best receiver in the nation. I don't necessarily think he was the best corner in the nation. Looking at both, I mean, he was at least top 5, probably top 3 at both positions across the board in a power conference. Like that to me is borderline unheard of in recent times. Again, I know Jeanty is fantastic, and I hope he's a Dallas Cowboy in a few months. But a running back one is a less impactful position than corner and wide receiver nowadays at this point in time. And then also just the fact that he is playing lesser competition. Like again, though, he was putting up unheard of numbers too. He was the closest he was on pace, I think, to break Barry Sanders' record for yards in a year, which has I mean, Barry Sanders has been retired for a long time. Like there's a reason it's still standing because it was such an incredible record. But yeah, I mean, I think
so less games as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Barry Sanders did it in less games than what Jeanty did, and Jeanty still did it. Which shows how crazy that number is from Sanders, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I'm a different type of rock star. I got class and I got Henny overflowing up my shot glass. And yeah, I know I'm not a keeper, but can you be my mama's seater by the time I'm done with